The 874th edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog. Get up to a $1,000 deposit match when you sign up at UnderdogFantasy.com and use promo code MMASGPN.
Howdy ho, Degenerinos. Welcome to episode 874 of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, dedicated to another one of our friends on YouTube, Lati Harris, who, to summarize, thinks we should be viewed by we should be viewed by thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So thank you, because we're so good, which I agree. Well, we are viewed by thousands, not thousands. That's what we need. I agree. But slowly but surely, we're building up there. So if you agree with Lati Harris and you think we're great, tell a friend, share our episodes, do all that good stuff. I'm one of your hosts. I'm the Canadian Bogatyr, at least for one more episode. This probably there's some prime nicknames for the taking on this episode here. The laugh you heard, he's laughed 2 episodes in a row to kick things off. Daniel Gumby Vreeland. We're talking about Fury Challenger Series 14, and Gumby and I off air. We're trying to figure out why this is a Challenger Series, because this is basically as good as a regular Fury card, maybe even better than a regular Fury card.
I have no idea what there's a pro title fight on here.
Yeah.
There's 2 of their most hyped prospects on here. There's a couple other like undefeated like pros with not like only one fight. Yeah. I think it must have to do with what their undercard looks like, because their undercard on this is almost exclusively amateurs.
Right.
So my guess is that when it's Challenger Series, like the prelims are just amateurs, and then when it's the real deal, they like hire pros up and down it.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, it's a good fight card regardless. What do we care what it's called, right? Doesn't matter to us. Yeah, good fight card, good prospects on it, that type of thing. Hopefully some good lines. Lines have not dropped yet, but they will be shortly. And it's going down this coming Sunday, which is good as well. Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So either you can spend some of the money you made off the UFC and the other events on Saturday, or you can chase after all the money that you lost on this Fury event. Either or, you can bet on this Fury event. All right, before we dive into it, a reminder, you can get all of SGPN's picks and props for free with the SGPN app. So get it wherever you get your apps. All right, Fury Challenger Series 14, Houston, Texas, Sunday, 2 p.m., as I said. You got all that already. They are still on Fight Pass, right? As far as we all know. Imogen venues in Houston, Texas, 17 fights. As Gumby said, a lot of amateur fights. So we're not going to be breaking down all 17, but there's a lot of familiar names on the fights we will be breaking down, which is good to see. We're starting things off with the nickname fight, the fight where I'm probably going to steal a nickname. James Ford versus Donte Johnson. These are 205 pounders. They're both from the United States. Johnson's nickname is Two Entrees. It's a very, very good nickname.
For a big dude like that, Two Entrees. Yeah.
Yep. He is 4-0 with 4 knockouts. This is his debut in Fury. He used to fight at 265. Not a surprise if you're eating 2 entrees. 1-0 as a pro kickboxer, 2 years younger than Ford. Ford, a very, very small resume. 3-0, 2 knockouts, 1 submission. All those fights have taken place in Fury. He owes his rounds.
This is, I'm going to say pick them, right? Like we're at 2 undefeated prospects, 3-0, 4-0. They look pretty equal. And I mean, they're equal in terms of their finishes, right? They've got 100% finish rate on both sides. Maybe the books find somebody to like here. I mean, the fact that Ford's fought all of his fights for Fury usually tips things in that favor too. And Johnson's got 1 extra fight. So yeah, we'll say -110 on either side. I'm going to take 2 entrees.
Are you going to take 2 entrees?
Yeah, I'm going to, hey, no shit. I did that once after a jiu-jitsu tournament. I cut so much weight. And then right after weigh-ins, I went and ate 2 entrees. And let me tell you what doesn't do your stomach well right after that. 2 entrees. No, but with that being said, Johnson here, I like the way he cuts off the cage better. It's a lot better from my perspective. Like, you mentioned the kickboxing background for Johnson. It's clear he has a kickboxing background.
Yeah.
You don't see a 205er cut angles like that very much. And a lot of his fights have been against heavyweights. Granted, that's maybe a disadvantage too, because they're so much slower than him.
Right.
He's like really precise with his striking. He's sharp. He's quick. He's a little bit of a shorter guy for this weight class, but he's still pretty explosive. He's a thicker guy. He's kind of like built like like a light heavyweight Pat Barry. And like explosive, good knockout power. The thing I would say that I have to worry about in this one, so you don't just like back the truck up to Johnson here, is that like Ford can wrestle a little bit. I don't know how much I like the technique on his wrestling, but also like I haven't seen Johnson really defend any takedowns. Like most of the guys at heavyweight, he hits them with a right hook and they like cower in the edge of the cage, and then he just like hits them 14 more times before.
Yeah.
And so like haven't really seen like somebody try to wrestle him, and like Ford is definitely going to try to wrestle him, especially when the power comes back. Ford also weirdly, Ford is an unconventional looking light heavyweight. He's kind of thick around the middle still, despite like the fact that he could probably lose 20 pounds and just go to middleweight. And actually, to me, that like maybe gives Johnson another level of an advantage here too, because he's going to be the quicker, definitely the stronger of the two guys too. Ford throws a really nice head kick, and he's got some wrestling, so like I can see why people would be interested in Ford and maybe get this line down a little bit. But I like the game-changing power from Johnson. I like his ability to cut off the cage. I like his ability to pour it on when he hurts somebody. So please, please, please give me 2 entrees.
All right. Did you give us odds? I don't remember.
Yeah, I said pick them, I think.
Right. Yes, you did. Yep. And we're picking 2 entrees, always. All right. We are moving on up the card, as we like to do. We're going way down now to 145. Tony Toro. That's a fun name. Nick Talavera. They're both from the United States. They're fighting 145, as I said. Talavera, Slick Nick Talavera is 6-2 with 6 submissions. He's been knocked out once. He owes his rounds. 1-1 in Fury. He's won 5 of 6. Won his last bout via submission. He's not lost since March 2023. He's 5 inches taller than Toro. Tony the Terror Toro, another good nickname. 4-2 with 3 knockouts. Never been finished in a fight. But all those fights taking place in Fury. Lost, win, loss over his last 4. Used to fight at 135. He's a year younger than Talavera.
I think Talavera is going to be the favorite, both the size and the fact that Tony Toro's 2-2 in his last 4 fights, and he's coming off that loss. I think we're going to get Talavera looking like let's say -200, maybe like +175 on Tony Toro. And Tony Toro continues to be one of my favorite dudes to watch in this. So I'm going to go with him in this one. The big thing I like about him is the way he blitzes. He's a guy who is out of range until he decides to be in it. And then when he's in it, he hits you like half a dozen times. And then he disappears again. I really like that aggression. I like that method he gets at. And Talavera, man, I watched his last fight and he did win. But like, man, did he look bad in that fight. And the things that made him look bad were, at one point in time, he's looking for a takedown and just not defending himself, striking at all. And he gets just like absolutely eats a brutal punch to the stomach. You can see one of his biggest issues is that like when he's thinking about a takedown, he doesn't know how to defend his striking anymore. And with a guy who controls range well in Toro, that can be a problem. He also really clearly doesn't like when people crowd him and make him move backwards. Like he seems like he's completely out of his element and he's like panicking and in trouble. And Tony Toro, like I just said, he blitzes really well. He forces people to move backwards or to engage in a firefight with him, neither of which I think is good for Talavera. Now, Talavera did win that fight at the very, very end. After clearly dropping round 1 and 2, he pulled a Kimura out of nowhere in round 3. He winds up winning that fight. And like, it's going to go down as a win and hopefully it sways the odds so that we get a Tony Toro underdog pick here. But like, go back and watch that fight, guys. If you're thinking about backing Talavera, like for me, his only path to victory to beating Tony Toro is submitting him. And I'm guessing Tony Toro's smart enough that like, if he does even wind up in a top position, he's just going to back away and force him to strike again. Because the thing about Tony Toro is he loves to throw his hands. He's a guy who really believes in his striking abilities. I've really liked watching him strike. So give me Tony Toro, hopefully as an underdog in this one.
It's a fun name to say, isn't it? Tony Toro?
Yeah.
Terror.
I was going to say, he's got a fun nickname that fits in there too.
And you said plus for him, right? +175?
Yeah, I would guess. Yeah, because, he is 2-2 in his last 4, and that last loss didn't look particularly good either. Although I think he actually looked better in that fight than Talavera did in his last fight. The results just don't go down the way that they want them to.
All right, awesome. Before we get some more winning plays, let me tell you about Circa Million and Circa Survivor. Think you know ball, and then you have to enter Circa's football contest with $21 million in guaranteed prizes. There's no rake, so if entries go above the guarantee, all extra money will go to the prize pool. Circa Million, you pick 5 teams against the spread each week, or go for the ultimate sweat in Circa Survivor. There's even the Circa Grandissimo, which is a $100,000 Survivor contest. You must register in person at a Circa Sportsbook in Nevada, but that's your excuse to get to Vegas. And when you do sign up in Nevada, you can play from anywhere with the help of SGPN's official proxy. So go to footballcontest.com, use promo code SGP. That way you get $50 off your proxy fees. And we're brought to you by bookie.ag. MyBookie is your place to bet in every sport, including the MLB, WNBA, golf, and of course, football futures. MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of locations. They have easy deposit and lightning fast payouts using crypto. They have Fury lines there. So check that out along with UFC and everything else that we cover. And when you do head to mybookie.ag, use our promo code MMASGPN. That's MMASGPN. That way you get 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. That's mybookie.ag, promo code MMASGPN. All right, do we have more? Oh, we have more fun nicknames. It's
I don't know. Lester Batres is kind of fun, is it not?
Yeah, Lester Batres Jr. is a good name. Yeah. Pena Allamov is his opponent.
No, so but his nickname too.
Oh yes, that's right. Yep,
he's the unit, right?
The unit. Yes, he's fighting Pena Allamov from Turkmenistan. Have we had a fighter from Turkmenistan that we've talked about before, Gumby?
Pena Allamov at least 3 times.
Yep. Other than him. All right. Pena Allamov is 5-2-1 with one. Oh, did I tell you what weight class they're fighting at? It's actually not listed on the old Typology. It's 155, according to Sherdog. All right, Allamov, 5-2-1 with one no contest. One knockout. He owes us some finishes because he's never been finished himself as well. All those fights have taken place in Fury. 1-1-1 with one no contest over his last 4 fights. So he's taken one from each category. He got a draw in his last bout. He used to fight at 145 and 160. He's 3 inches taller. So he's been the Batres Jr. The unit is 5-1, one knockout, 2 submissions. He's never been finished. He has fought his whole career in Fury as well. TKO win in his last bout. He's fought at 170, 5 years younger than Allamov.
Yeah, so we owe Lester Batres a great deal because his lone loss, I believe we cashed it plus 1,000. Brett Pastor, who was 4-3, I was like, this is the guy who's going to give him this weird prospect loss. And by God, if he didn't take a split decision off of him. But the reason I liked Brett Pastor in that fight is Brett Pastor was like an underrated grappler. And while Lester Batres is still trying to figure out the hands, like that's his path to victory, right? Is like by being the grinder, being the aggressor when it comes to the grappling round. And like, look, he lost that fight to Pastor. They went in and they gave him the easiest fight they could find him out there. They found him a 1-0 dude to get his record right because this is a guy they want to build up. I mentioned at the top of the show, we're going to see 2 of Fury's favorite prospects. This is one of them. They want Lester Batres near the top. However, Pena Allamov's kind of got a name behind him too. You know, he's got the OV on there.
Yeah,
he's a guy we've seen a billion times already. I think his name value might be enough to get Lester Batres at like a playable line. My guess is maybe right around -200, you know, give or take 15 or 20. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if he posted at -180. Wouldn't also be surprised if it was -225 or something like that. So, you know, I think Lester Batres is going to be a favorite, but maybe not out of, you know, a crazy level because he did just lose to a dude who was 4-3 in Brett Pastor. I'm going to go with Lester Batres here. Pena Allamov, despite the name, is a strike first guy, which is sort of never been a problem for Lester Batres. And if you watch Pena Allamov's last fight, the dude just gets thrown around in the grappling repeatedly over and over and over again. The guy he was fighting like wasn't particularly good at holding top position. But like that's the thing that Batres is better at, or at least better at than his Allamov's last opponent. You know, I think it's only going to take a takedown or 2 from Batres, and he should be able to get in there. You know, we've seen kind of the mistakes he's made in the grappling. Lucky for us, it was in the fight we picked against him. Yeah. But like, I think that those mistakes are really good learning opportunities, right? We call it a prospect loss for a reason. You know, he kind of wore himself out grappling with a guy he, you know, couldn't sort of hang with in terms of jiu-jitsu ability. And like now here at Allamov, like, he's probably sharpened those things up a little bit, and Allamov is not as good in that realm. Like, I think Allamov's probably a better fighter than Brett Pastor, but it's not in the grappling realm that he's particularly good. So I think Batres just dominates him there and cashes, hopefully. Let's get him at a playable number thanks to that fun loss he gave us a little while back.
Yeah. All right. Batres, the unit won you some units, and you're hoping this time he lost. He lost to win you units, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes. He lost to win us units.
Exactly. Now we want the unit to bring units to us via a win. Familiar name in the co-main event, or at least a familiar last name. This is a women's bantamweight bout. Bella Mir. She's fighting a replacement, Stephanie Calderon. They're fighting 135. Calderon, Stone Cold Stephanie Calderon. 2-0. This is a good nickname episode. 2-0, 2 knockouts. This is her short notice debut. It was basically just announced, right? As of like early this week.
I think it was announced on Thursday.
Okay.
So she'll have like 10 days to get ready.
Yep. Will it matter? Probably not. Used to fight at 125, or she only has fought at 125 in her 2 bouts. She's an inch taller than Mir. Lady Bella Mir. 3-0 with 2 submissions. This is her debut in Fury as well. She's won 2 straight fights via submission. Used to fight at 125 as well. 2-0 as a pro grappler. 10 years younger than Calderon. And of course, she's the daughter of Frank Mir.
Yeah, and the skills bear out. Like, she was on one of those UFC jiu-jitsu cards.
Yep.
I mean, she's so good at jiu-jitsu. And she's a D1 college wrestler right now. Like, she's currently in college wrestling D1. And she won some like really impressive meets. I don't quite know the structure of women's college wrestling at this point, because it is like seriously like a budding sport. So I don't know what, like where stuff falls and all of that. But I do know that I've seen her like on podiums recently in wrestling. So like I know she's doing the damn thing and putting up numbers. So and I've watched her a bunch of times. The wrestling, I mean, like, it's not just she's a good wrestler in collegiate wrestling. She's a good wrestler in the way that she blends it into MMA. I mean, she grew up in the game. She mentioned she's only 3-0, but there's like 7 or 8 AMI fights there. Like, I think all of those things bear out. And as you mentioned, Calderon's a late replacement here. I went and watched a few of her fights because I'd never really heard of her. I had already done the research on the other opponent, which is her nickname was Yum Yum.
Yeah,
Jeff wanted me to mention Yum Yum.
Yum Yum.
So yeah, Yum Yum dropped out. I had already done my research, so I went back. I watched some Calderon fights. Like the big piece to me is, she's got some snappy striking. And her opponent in that fight went to go get in on the takedown. They got to the hips, and I was like, that's a bad sign already. And then they couldn't finish the takedown, and I had to ask myself, like, is she good at defending takedowns? And then I just realized she was like a big 125er, and she was fighting a girl who clearly should have been a 115er. And now she's going to be fighting a 135er who is like cutting weight to get to 35. Like, Bella Mir, if you haven't seen her, she's got her dad's size for sure. She got her dad's build. Like, she is a big 135er. So like, Calderon let somebody get in on her hips. Bad sign. But couldn't finish it because she was probably a weight class below her. Now she's the one who's the weight class below. Bella Mir gets to those hips, it's going to be an arm triangle. She's got to take her down. She's going to get a hold of her head. She's going to put her in an arm triangle and put her to sleep. So yeah, give me Bella Mir here.
All right, Bella Mir here.
Oh, and I didn't pick
you didn't give a
line. -700, -800.
Boo.
Yeah, it won't be fun.
Yep. All right, I'll get to our main event in a second. A couple more sponsors to tell you about. Underdog Best Ball Mania is happening all summer long, giving away $15 million in prizes, including $2 million to first place. No waiver wire, no arguments about trades. Best Ball is the best way to play fantasy football. And Underdog is also a great place to play. Pick'em. Gumby has a play for you right now.
Yeah, we're on Tuesday, and the Cincinnati Reds are in DC playing the Nationals, and I've got one of my favorite guys playing in that game. We got Chase Burns pitching. Chase Burns from Wake Forest has put up some gaudy numbers and strikeouts, with the exception of one real ugly game against the Red Sox. He's putting up 8, 9, and 11 strikeouts in his other 3 pro starts. So let's take the higher than. I'm going to say he gets double figures here against the Nats. Give me the higher than on Chase Burns strikeouts.
Boy, that would be something to see. Sign up with our code MMA SGPN at underdogfantasy.com, and that way you get to claim a special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus credits. So underdogfantasy.com, promo code MMA SGPN. And you've heard us talk about Rhythm before, and they just dropped a game-changing feature called Power Trends, essentially the best of what their house model has to offer. These are AI-detected patterns where Rhythm's model has consistently won and has a high ROI. Think a strikeout prop that wins 59% of the time when the line and win probability hit a certain range. Power trends are updated daily and exclusive to Rhythm. No touts, no noise, just clean data-backed bets. Here's some numbers for you. MLB power trends are 254 and 147, which is a win rate of 63% and an ROI of 4.5% in their past 400 bets. WNBA power trends are 35 and 20 since launch. That's 63.64% win rate, 20.7% ROI. So download the Rhythm app, check out Power Trends, and start betting smarter. You know we will be. Gumby's always stumbling across fun things on Power Trends, even women's basketball sometimes.
Yeah, I stumbled across how good Charlie Morton has been recently.
Uncle Charlie, yes.
Yeah, which was weird because last I checked, he had an 11 ERA. And it's still not pretty, which is, one of the things that's great about Rhythm is they don't really care about how the season stats look. They're looking for trends. And his recent trend is he's striking out a lot of people and keeping the ball in the park. So, next time Charlie Morton's on the mound, don't write him off so quick.
Yep. Get your 7-day free trial today. sportsgamblingpockets.com/rhythm. RITHMM. And your return main event is for the Fury FC Lightweight Championship. Hector Saenz versus.
You didn't ask me. Why.
Gumby, why is it vacant? It's vacant.
It's vacant because Manchurkera was the owner of this title.
Right.
And he recently had a feature fight on Road to the UFC. Not a tournament fight, but a feature fight. He took it on short notice, flew halfway across the world, fought in Singapore, and picked up the win. I can't imagine doing all of that and then the UFC doesn't wind up signing him. And now that we're seeing it, not for the interim, or is it for the interim or for the vacant?
Vacant, yeah. I guess.
Vacant, yeah. That's a good sign for Manchurkera. So you're either going to see Manchurkera on Contender Series in a couple of weeks, or he's already been signed.
All right. Hector Saenz, United States. Iler, Bakhtiyar, Uulu, another one of those Ulus. He is from Kyrgyzstan. They are fighting 5-minute rounds at 1:55. Bakhtiyar is 10-2, 4 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's been submitted once. This is his debut in Fury. He's won 3 straight and 8 of 9. The past 3 wins have all come via finish. He's fed at 145. He's 3 inches taller than Saenz, 4 years younger. Saenz, El Gato Borracho, the drunk cat. Another great nickname. We started and ended with fantastic nicknames. 9-2, 1 knockout, 4 submissions. He's been submitted once. All those fights taking place in Fury. He's won 2 straight and 5 of 6, including his last bout he won via submission.
Yeah, I think Bakhtiyar going to be the favorite. I'll say -185, and I'm going to take him in this fight. It's funny that you mentioned that he won by submission, because if I'm not mistaken, he won by a Kimura after getting beat up a little bit in that fight. And when I was remembering that back, when we talked about Nick Talavera earlier on the fight, or on this fight card, I said, Talavera got beat up real bad and then won with a Kimura. And then I'm like, am I confusing the fights that I watched? No, both of them did that. Hector Saenz got taken down a couple of times by Malik Lewis, who's a halfway decent prospect, but maybe, my first choice isn't to talk about how great the takedowns of Malik Lewis is. And Saenz got taken down a couple of times there. And yes, he wound up scrambling and being the better grappler at the end, but not really a good sign when you're fighting Iler Bakhtiyar, because Bakhtiyar, I really like his takedown game, particularly for the use of his lower half of his body. This isn't usually a thing I say with takedowns, but he is really good with the Henry Cejudo inside trip. He's really good at shelving your legs once he gets you down so that you can't wall walk up, or sometimes he does that little that Dagestani leg lace that helps keep people from climbing up. The lower half of his body in his wrestling game is really good at destabilizing his opponents. And that's really good here against Hector Saenz, because what Hector Saenz saw before was just a very simple double leg, and he gave up some takedowns on it. And Bakhtiyar is much better than that. He's also a dog on a bone. I've seen him fail on a takedown before, and he just switches and moves to a different one. And that's what he's going to do. I also like about Bakhtiyar is he's really patient on the feet. For a guy who knows the best part of his game is his wrestling, he's not out there trying to be something he's not. Fundamentally sound on offensive striking, fundamentally sound on defensive striking, not trying to push the envelope, just looking for his opening to get that takedown. And we saw Saenz be the better scrambler and the better, overall grappler, even if not the better wrestler against Lewis. I think he's going to be worse in pretty much every single category of grappling against Bakhtiyar. So we're going to go with Bakhtiyar, hopefully south of -200.
Hopefully. All right. Recap. We'll get you some more plays. Bakhtiyar, Mir, Batres Jr., Toro, and Johnson, 2 entrees. All right. Later rounds. That Ben Boom Pow. Hit us.
Yeah, so there's only 2 more pro fights. So I'll give you my picks for every single pro fight on this card. One of them I'm going to give you is Sean Kennard. Kennard's actually a pretty damn good prospect, but his opponent dropped out like a month before this fight card happened. They've been digging for like a replacement. They found him somebody he could fight, but the guy's terrible. So you're not going to see a playable line on Sean Kennard, but he's going to win that fight too. And then we got a couple of newbies, one 1-0 guy, one 0-0 guy. And I'm going to take the 1-0 guy, maybe unsurprisingly. Jackson Glass is his name. You know, I watched a little bit of his previous fighting. He's got a really nice amateur background. His first pro fight, he didn't look flawless, but he looked like a 1-0 guy who had kind of a pretty well-rounded skill set. The guy he's fighting has had a lot of trouble with submissions. He's kind of been taken down a bunch. And granted, he's 0-0, so that was all in the AMI scene. But like, you know, you want to see a more flawless amateur background before you like get in on a guy at 0-0. And so I'm going to say Jackson Glass, Sean Kennard, the 2 lightning round picks.
All right. You are all set for Fury Challengers Series 14. We'll be in the Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. We'll be on the YouTube. You can hit us up in the comments, MMA Gambling Podcast. Twitter, SGPN MMA. He's at Gummy Vreeland. I'm at Jeff Fox Writer, at Jeff Fox Writer on Instagram as well. Headed over to my Substack. Check out all my MMA writings there and enter my UFC Pick'em contest. That will be moneymma.substack.com. Listen to more Gumby and less me at Top Turtle. Gumby, tell the people who is on it this week.
Yeah, we're talking to Baba Yaga, Damian Panache, who is fighting on the first episode of Dana White's Contender Series this coming August. And then we are also talking to Gabby McComb, who is fighting at LFA 213 this weekend over in California.
All right, check it out. And of course, we can be found at sportsgamblingpodcast.com, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store to get your merch, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. We'll be back tomorrow. We've got more UFC coming up this week, and it's not in the Apex, so it's a decent fight card. It'll be the Terror, Jeff Fox, Yum Yum, Gumby Vreeland. We'll talk to you then.